Sorry, I
Hi.
think we got disconnected. Hi.
Hi. So what was the last thing I told you?
Yeah, so we were in the middle of you telling us regarding the environmentally conscious aspect of making cities and buildings more environmentally conscious. So you were in the middle of your answer probably when I lost you in
Yeah.
between.
So I was getting to a point where if you consider which city you're in, I'll give again that suppose I live in Bandra and there are people living in Parla, okay,
Yeah, so
towards Andheri side, which is close to the airport.
the distance between the buildings, if they are
Yeah, I was
narrow,
saying,
it
right.
creates
So
something
I was,
there.
so yeah, you get funnel effects. My wife who stays in, now stays with me here, but who used to stay at Kandivli, Lokhandwala in the east. It was very interesting that the way they have put their bungalow, the buildings, there's a beautiful funnel of wind that comes into her house and keeps the house windy throughout the year. So these type of things, if people do pay attention to, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And this will help your cities be more conscious. Second thing, most important, people talk about just creating these green roofs and all. I think more the facades of the building. Firstly, let people put plants in their balconies. Let people put plants in their windows. I don't think that's a very wrong thing. Your societies are always fighting, you'll stain the walls, this will fall, that will fall. It's okay. Keep a lovely living thing. I have so many plants in my studio right now, and it keeps me very happy. Keeps me grounded to earth, And as simple and sweet as it may sound, you need a lot of trees. You need trees in your compound spaces. You need to be able to sit under a tree in the shade. All this creates a beautiful, breathable environment, and I think that is very important for cities. But in the longer scheme of things, in the more urban scheme of things, you have to consider your planning. The planning must allow concentration of buildings of a particular height to the amount of people that are going to live in it. Like in my city, and there's Malad. Malad gets jammed to a point. Okay, I rather drive all the way to Pune and I'll reach faster sometimes than take my car and drive to Malad towards its end. Because what have they done? They decided it's okay, there's no need to have any laws regarding the flights over here. Let's just keep making towers. And they did not control it, and they put so many people in one tower. They didn't do the infrastructure of the roads below. So can you imagine a building which has say 500 cars in it, and there are five of them in one bloody area with a road that is a single lane road. You tell me how a person is supposed to maneuver themselves and get up. This is where New Bombay is much better. New Bombay was planned well enough to keep that much space on the roads, distance from each other. So now when they make towers, like I've done a few residential flats that side in Kargar, beautiful growth over there. These guys are making buildings 20, 25 stories high, and you still do not feel clogged because they plan it in that. Their master planning at that time was planned in a very good. Here I understand it's a very organic growth. These cities are more of an organic growth, but distance between each form, each built mass is very, very important. And I think that will help us control the way the city grows and becomes a little more breathable. That's we need to decongest. I think that is our main step. After that, everything will flow. The ecosystem itself will start going back better. This is at least what I
Okay.
believe.
Yeah, so I captured three things from here. Number one was that you said that the buildings or let's say the habitats need to be designed at a distance from each other so that there is more natural flow.
Yeah, you have to let light in. You have to let wind
Yeah,
in. For that, you can't be stuck so close to each other. Right.
correct. And the second thing that you said was that we should introduce a lot of natural outgrowth in the areas that you are there, either it's a tree, flowers, etc. And the third you said was that planning needs to be well considered, wherein you gave an
Yeah.
example of Malad and I think the New Bombay places that you. So I think these are the three things that probably I captured from your conversation. Yeah,
Yeah.
great. Anything else probably I would have missed and you want to add on?
No, I think we can move on to the next one.
All right, let's move on to the next question. So, okay, here
Yeah.
this is more to do with the building materials actually. So, how much do you think that the building materials and the strategic openings in a building actually decide upon the building's longevity?
So you're talking about a building, or you're talking about homes? Like, are you talking about
Uh, Homes
smaller
being wide
structures?
so far was, yeah. See, okay, when I say homes, I mean, even an apartment sometimes is a home for someone, and we can also talk about independent houses as well. So we're talking about small, probably, residential spaces.
So I'll give you an example. Uh, I believe any space that a family is and is growing together in is a home, right? So
Yeah.
it could be a bungalow, it could be an apartment, it could be a small rectangular space, could be within a hotel, whatever works for people, right? That's not a problem. The thing is that the control of your climate can happen in standalone structures more easier when you're planning. Buildings you can to a certain extent also. So uh, let's take something which is very broadly spoke, macro level of stuff, right? So firstly, again, it totally depends on the region that you build. This is very, very important. Strong belief of sustainability from my end. You have to consider the transportation and the amount of fuel you burn to even bring the material to site. This is something this is something that people do not consider very well. Now I'll give you one simple example. I am in my city and I'm also building a bungalow in Goa, and I'm building one in Alibag. Okay, three different places. In this city, the availability of these Cicorex cement-based blocks, these very lightweight blocks, is much higher, cheaper. So people land up using that. Builders are using that more. Why? Because they believe that their structural system can reduce its steel weight if I use that material, right? Though, to be very honest, the material may do its job pretty decently, but it's not the best as far as handling your climate is concerned. Because the amount of sound that reflects off these walls, you will notice in the newer buildings, they use these walls and they don't plaster them with cement, they just take gypsum and they pull that gypsum on the wall. Either you can hear the guy next door, or while you are speaking, the sound keeps dancing around, which is why now in our designs we had a lot of carpets on the floor. It's to take in that sound.
Reduce the echo.
Yeah, you can hear the echo. But in the larger scheme of things, these blocks reduce the amount of concrete and they reduce the amount of steel in your structure because you can make it lighter. So, yeah, it does help in one particular way. And it is more easily available than the other materials. Now you take Alibag. Alibag, to get these particular blocks is a very big headache, right? But they have red brick being manufactured locally in their area a lot. So they always construct in brick because the distance to travel for the material to reach them only is lower, right? And I personally love brick. I find brick is a good material. People may complain about the fact that you burn them, it creates smoke, and there's a lot of things that go against the brick as well. But come on, the brick has proved itself for God knows how many years, and I don't think it's a very bad material if we use it well. It's like a material that is going to last for hundreds of years, maybe. It will work well if it is made well, right? So that region will then take use of that material to reduce their transportation. This is also a form of sustainable work. And the same thing will happen in Goa. Goa, they have availability of laterite stone, which they use laterite stone instead of brick also. And it's cost effective. Brick turns out more expensive to build with than laterite stone. Same stone, if I bring it to Bombay, it costs me a bomb. If I have to bring it to Alibag, it costs me a bomb. Right? So you choose your material based on the locality you're in. Also, it matters a lot because you reduce your cost, you reduce your let's say the energy that you take to get it there. Yeah. Also, you stick to the local charm of the place. So you stick to that aesthetic maybe, or you also stick to that particular technique that they used to use, which in the beginning we spoke about how climate responsive things might be. You can use any material, but if you use something that people have been used in that area, nothing wrong about it. I think it's a very, very good thing to do. Second thing, as far as you, so this is a basic idea of materials. Like you could use steel. Steel is a beautiful material because when you're done with steel, you can cut that steel and reuse it somewhere else. Like we built a restaurant named the Conservatory recently in Juhu. It's a glass facade structure completely where we have filled up columns of metal. And I asked my client at that time, okay, he does a lot of other restaurants as well. I said, do we have anything left? He's like, yeah, I've got 3-4 columns left. I said, you bring it here, right? Because he had to take down one place. So I told him, why don't you just stop the metal from there and bring it here? Again, that's sustainable. It's like, so the material, how it is reused or used, you can always consider that, right? The second part, which you had spoken of in your question, is about the openings of the window, right? So people have this incredibly wrong notion that the bigger the window, the better. It's not true. The bigger the window in the correct place, yes, very good, very nice. But also depends on where you are. Like if you take a state like Rajasthan, you would not want to open all your windows as easily as you think, because at some point you need to trap the air inside. On a very hot day, you need to trap the cool inside. On a very cold day, you need to trap the heat inside. So you just can't go guns blazing. Let's just make a big glass facade structure. It's not going to bloody work. And then if that happens, you'll end up fighting with nature, and then you'll end up taking every artificial object you have in life, dump it over there, and you try and get working on that in that direction. So the size of your openings can differ. Now there are 2 bungalows in Alibag that we're doing, and me and Natasha both, we have this one thing that we love to channel wind within a house. We always think about it. So in Goa, we had done a small boutique hotel there. It was bang on the beach, facing the beach. Okay, we made this incredibly long corridor in the dead center of the building, and we were like, yeah, how do we make it feel like when a person is just entering the building, they feel beachy about it, right? So let's get the wind in. So what we did is that towards that other end where the wind was channeling from, we designed a staircase that started there and a slope that like this, right? It moved like this, like a proper funnel. It opened like that, right? So what we did is that we let air come into that funnel, which then became smaller into a corridor. Right. So when you enter the corridor, and if the girl's wearing a dress, it's going to fly. And they felt really cool about it. The people that started living in that space, they found that, wow, it's so windy over here. But actually, it was, we wanted that air to come and create itself. So there are methods that we follow. It's like how you do plumbing. Okay, plumbing, if you send water through a 1-inch pipe, then you connect a half-inch pipe to it. You're building pressure by pushing it through that particular hole. You do the same thing with wind, and you can easily sort of bottle your air in and send it into the house. Like a house in Alibag, we have faced our one door entry with very open windows towards the west and one towards the east. But we kept the west side a little smaller, where we kept it, say, half the size of the east side. Why? Because we wanted east sun to come into the house. So let that be open. And westerly winds we wanted to bring into the house, but a little controlled. So we made the opening smaller. And when we made the opening smaller, we built a little ahead on it as well. We sort of funneled the air over there. So that caught the air and blasted it open towards that side. So we inverted the funnel over. So we tried to control the wind to move within the house in not a very extreme way. So if you invert the funnel, that one point where it's exiting to have a lot of it. But after that, it sort of, how do you say, a word for it. It's sort of just like fades away. It sort of fades away. While in Goa, we wanted someone to keep that gust of wind on their face. So it depends on which direction you put that in, which is what your question is, how the openings can really help. So you control the size of your openings to create these effects. Now there are certain places where we want the house to heat up because it's very cold, man, in the winters. So you want such big open sides facing east. Let the bloody sun hit it, or face it south. You get more heat on that side. So because the chart is like that, right? From east to west, southern in India, right? So that is also another way of um, helping you to control the climate which is there. So don't go. I never advise people to, like, some of my clients like, why don't you just open this? Must pulla dikhega. I said, boss, this side open. If you keep this window extremely open, you're inviting the rain in so harshly that this whole wall will start to leak. I would not advise it to be done. So you have to consider these points. Do not fight with nature. It's God's way. Don't fight with nature. It's a very good rule that we should follow. If you want to fight, you should be really, really keen and sharp about it. That's it. So all this, the more you reduce your artificial use of lighting and wind and cooling, your building will last much, much longer. There's no two ways about it. The more you do not fight the forces of nature, your building will stand longer because it's not struggling to stand over there, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's how I would consider to make a building live longer.
Okay. So I'll just once again brief your answer. I mean, in a few snippets. So one was to do with the building materials, where you said that we should look at the natural building materials available around that area, and also reduce the carbon. I mean, that obviously will reduce the carbon footprint of getting materials from far off. And the second thing that you said was that we should look at designing it with the local materials and with the local architecture that probably exists in that area. Why? Because that is basically a very big signal for us to design the space as it has been designed, in the ancient times, wherein they considered climate and nature as the key element of design. So that's also very well said. And the second thing that you spoke about, the strategic openings, is that obviously I'm with you on that. That we also get customers and architects wherein they want a glass house out of their residential house, and after that it becomes a nightmare even for maintenance from point of view. But you rightly said that strategic openings should be used in a way wherein you can take help of nature and aid the natural process, as against trying to do something against nature, because that obviously would bring in more artificial sources of doing whatever you want to do at the end.
Yeah.
Point well taken. In fact, the next question was about passive cooling techniques in both ancient and modern Indian architecture. You touched it a lot in your present I think question. Would you like to add on something to it, because this is the only question now we can kind of have for us, because the time is already over and above what we.
I do talk a lot. I'm really sorry. So, as far as passive cooling, I think I spoke about a lot of these points while not using it. But there is another method we use where you make cavity walls in certain areas. It sort of blocks the heat. So the thing is, like, I read up on your company, of course, and I hope to work with you in further projects and that. But it's like people like y'all, with your technologies that you're introducing to all of us, it sort of helps me think of a way that maybe I don't have to use that old system to. So suppose there's a certain side, okay, where I want to invite a lot of light, okay, but I know I'm going to fight nature by inviting too much heat. You guys will come up with a technique to give me a cavity-filled glass or something that will block it to a certain extent, right? So this is one methods of passive cooling which were done vernacular. But more of cavity-based walls, insulation in your ceilings, in your roofs, that also. So cavities always help, especially for roofing. You can now people are putting this mineral wool, they put foam, they used to put thermocol also at some point of time, where they used to block the heat from outside to even travel below. The thing is, what people have made a mistake in this entire process. When you suppose say a heating system, okay, I mean your roof, and you're trying to insulate it, there has to be a way to let your insulation also release its heat, and that is where people sort of fail. So there is I had seen a design, I don't remember which city, but it was like they had kept a form of skylight on the top and had a very heavy metal lid on. Okay, very heavy metal lid. I was like, it's so stupid. This thing will be heating up and creating more heat. This is when I was in college. I was studying at that time. And then the architect at that time then told me that no, the interesting facts, the heating methods that I think even vernacular people follow. When you create one point in the house where you want that part to heat. Okay, you get that part to heat, and at that same point, you create openings. So what happens is that plate starts to heat a lot, which makes the air in that little cavity heat, and you have already given passage for it to get out. So once it gets out, you have started a natural pressurized system of getting air out completely, and that starts the ventilator effect and starts rotating the air in your house. So the trick is to heat the top, and this yes, it was also in a larger scale done in a company called Suzlon in Pune. They have their main office there, and the architect at that time had created these massive glass tubes that went through to the ceiling, and that glass used to heat a lot on top to create this effect of letting the hot air get out. And that funnel and that pipe was taken all the way to the basement. So it brought in natural light in the basement. That was number one. Number two, because it was getting a little chilly at the bottom in the basement, and still the air was very still, it created a vacuum which threw the air out. It was very interesting to see. So these particular techniques are very, very helpful. And people have forgotten it. Like I would say, these old Parsi houses that used to live in my old colonies, they always had a ventilator window. Like the house I'm living in now is a old Parsi building. They have ventilator windows above your windows. What was that for? Because they wanted the heat from the upper part of the ceiling to leave peacefully, to go out. Now people are not paying attention to that, and people are like, you always block it, so finish it off there. So
so we ventilator windows wherein the hot air obviously always tends to rise up in any which way. So those are the windows probably they're called vents. They're just venting out the hot air in the space. Yeah.
But the thing is, now people are not sensitive to it. They're like, we rather put an air conditioning unit to cool the room down and just end the story. So
I think So I think these days artificial means of introducing comfort has actually taken a lot of mind space as against the natural ways, and we often come across. I mean, frankly, not to pinpoint anything, but 50% of the discussions we have are very much towards the artificial ways of decorating and introducing means of comfort in the house. But obviously, a period of time, I would not say that will not have enough longevity. Why? Because even made up, I would say, interiors after a certain point of time, it start looking stale. It's only the nature which keeps on changing. It's only the nature.
So there's this one logic which I strongly follow, and my partner also strongly follow. It sounds very silly when I'll explain it to you. We human beings are just very smart animals on the earth, right?
Yeah.
We have created society. We have created the economy. We have created a comfortable living style for us. We have done all this because of our brains. But the core is that you are an animal. There are people who go camping. I love going camping. I love going and sitting in a forest. I love going sitting near a lake. Why? Because these are the natural things that draw a human being to its actual animal self. So if you see
those are natural
designs, and whatever we design, we include a lot of natural life in it. We add more plants as decor than bloody furniture pieces. Why? Because we want people to connect back to it. We want people to feel that. Like, this is a rented space, so my walls are blue. I have not intentionally done this. What is there? But it is a little soothing because blue is the color of the sea, water. It connects you. Stone in houses. Also, natural materials that have vernacularly been used have come from the earth, which is why now, if you notice, people have got into this entire thing of doing, let's say, uh, rough finishes, and they're saying, let's put cement on the walls directly. All these things people have started getting into again. Let's put quota on the flooring, where in between people are like, who's going to go and do all those old things, right? Right now, we designed a restaurant or cafe where we use Baroda green marble, something used years ago, and it's still used as a very cheap material, we call it. We made a beautiful facade
Even
out of it.
terrazzo is back in fashion these days, which we used to have
Yes.
earlier. We used to call that chips.
But why? The question is, why is all this back in fashion? Because it's not fashion. It is these particular objects are just grown to us.
Yeah.
Because we are animals in society, and your natural scheme of living is to be connected to green, is to be connected to gray, as stone, browns, which is the tree, the body of the tree, or rocks in that form, blues, because of the sky, because of the sea, because of the water bodies around. Then there's the beauty of, say, pink, red, in those aesthetic forms. Why? Because they're in flowers. There are beautiful birds flying around. They have natural color, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you consider a neon green, a neon pink, people are going to get bored of that shit very quickly. Why? It's not a natural order of things. It's not in your nature. You will like it for a while. It's a boring thing after a particular time. But if you have a house which is 100 years old, you'll notice that the flooring is stone. Because how many years pass, you will still feel happy and say, okay, this is sort of grounded for me. And this is where, with me and my partner, we try our level best to create this environment for people. When sometimes the designs don't look outlandish and all that, but mostly when people sit in that space, they get a vibe. They feel happy. I think that's all that's required in the future of our field. I really hope that we can continue doing this more.
Yeah, if architecture can bring in happiness in the lives of people, there is nothing better that can happen. Why? Because homes is the place where people try to spend maximum of their time. And if that place makes you happy, I think there's nothing better than that.
Yeah.
So great. Yeah, you were saying something?
Nothing more.
So it was great to have you with us today, although we've kind of exceeded the session by more than 20 minutes. But I love talking to people very passionate about what they want to express. And it's good to hear about you trying to, not fight against the nature when it comes to your architecture and kind of promoting use of natural ways of building homes. And it was really a pleasure to be with you today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We hope to see you when I come anytime, and with our, I would say, we would like to invite you to come to Chandigarh, wherein we can take you around the city and show you some La Corbusier architecture that is over here.
I will definitely join you at some point.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
See
Bye.
you. Bye.